Hello and thank you for joining me. My name is Jezebel Tourmaline and this is Wisdom Wednesdays. And today's the day when I bring you a reading from a spiritual ad- advancement book of some sort. The book that we're on currently is Mary Magdalene Revealed by Megan Watterson, and the first apostle, her feminist gospel, and the Christianity we haven't tried yet. Um, Maybe go on a bit of a rant prior to the reading, though. Um, it's been a hell of a day. I really thought that I was going to get through this Mercury retrograde situation with ease and like without disruption for once. But I was home isolated for most of it, so I didn't have to deal with people really too much. It's different whenever you're dealing with people, and then it's a lot easier to hold center when it's just you and you're not having to be around other people and manage their energies and whatnot and your own. And yeah, it was one of those kind of Murphy Law days today. Um, this guy almost backed into my son in his car seat and stroller. He wasn't paying attention, and my he was right up against my car. Like it wasn't a situation where where I was at fault. And then I don't know, he yelled and swore at me in some foreign language and then drove off. Um, I had to grab a hold of his car door because he was gonna run over my son. Like the thought of it, I'm just like, oh my god, I can't believe that happened. I was shaking so bad. Um, and then I was trying to tell the guy that his door was still open because I had opened it. I had grabbed the handle of the back door whenever he was about to run over my son, and I literally like jumped on the vehicle. Oh my god. So here's my van, here's his SUV, and then like my son's like right here. I'm like taking him out of the vehicle, loading him in the stroller and everything, and I'm standing in between. And this guy's like backing up. So I grabbed the handle in the SUV. Sorry, one second, my baby's fussing. So yeah, there's that. This little guy almost got ran over today, but I jumped on the SUV and stopped it. It was a really messed up situation. My heart was racing so much. Then we get to where we're going, and we were going to get all our IDs, because for some reason, as luck would have it, none of us all of us need ID. And it's difficult to get ID without ID and without a consistent place to live that you can use as an address. Um, yeah, so and they don't want to take accept a PO box. So I got to the government place. I went inside, and my 2-year-old decides to pull a complete tantrum. She starts screaming and crying, and she's really upset. She has hello. She has separation anxiety really, really bad, and she doesn't like to go around anyone else and like new people and like new situations, and she's afraid like I'm gonna like either leave her there or they're gonna like take her from me. It's really messed up, and like she's that way for a reason. She was taken from me at 7 months old because of domestic violence, and her father is a drug addict. He's caused us a lot of grief and a lot of problems, and so now she has all these. She's back in my care, but she has all these anxiety issues, separation anxiety issues. I can't take her to a daycare situation. It's it's really difficult because anywhere I go with her, she kind of like freaks out around people. And I didn't experience that with my younger two children, or sorry, my older two children. So that's new to me. That whole separation anxiety thing and dealing with that. So she's screaming and crying, and it's our turn. And the woman at Service Ontario, she's like, are you gonna go or should we let someone else? And I'm like literally on my knees talking to my 2 year old, like trying to calm her down. And I got the Service Ontario lady like tapping me on the shoulder. I was like, are you gonna go? I'm like, oh my God, really? So then at that point, my anxiety levels are escalating because I can't calm her down. And now I'm being like rushed through the counter and process and everything, and so I'm at the counter and I'm trying to talk to the woman and I'm trying to tell her what we need. And I like need to know how to get it. And it was difficult for me to understand and to hear her, and with the masks on too and everything, like it's harder to hear people. They're muffled, and when you have a 2 year old screaming beside you and you're trying to hear what the woman on the other side of the counter and plexiglass and mask is saying, it's difficult. So I'm raising my voice, and I already talk pretty loud. Like I project my voice quite clearly. There's no issue there. But I was I was elevating my voice like so that they could hear me, but that I could also like hear myself. But yeah, I was like, I had anxiety in that situation for sure. But I asked to speak to a manager because like I'm like, listen, like I need help. This is what we need, and like you're not really explaining it. So I brought in my daughter's health card. We cannot renew the health card. It expired, but we cannot renew it because we do not have her birth certificate. But they do not take care of birth certificates. It's a different Service Ontario location, the same company, same corporation. They just don't deal with the birth certificates. So I'm like, gotta go down to the courthouse. So I was like, okay, well, what do I bring with me so that I don't go all the way down there with the kids and be unprepared? Like, what do I need to apply for the birth certificate? And if I don't have my ID, then any ID, then how do I get it? And so, yeah, it was just a very confusing situation. And then my son was born in Quebec, and so I asked them for assistance with where to get the ID for that, and how to go about that. If I need to apply for the Ontario coverage for him. They couldn't answer me that either. And then for me, I have my birth certificate. I lost my health card though, so I'm in the same boat. None of us have health cards right now. And it's becoming like a really difficult task to get one. If it's not like the 3 hour lineups, it's these difficult customer service agents, we'll call them. Oh, buddy. So I needed to switch over my vehicle information and to switch over my driver's license to to the right address. Sorry, because it's been wrong for a long time, and you can get in trouble for that. But I experience issues with homelessness a lot in the last year, well, last 2 years, but last year especially. Um, and so I don't have an address to give them, and I said I can give you a PO box. Right now we're in a transitional house for women and children. Like we have our own apartment, our own space, but it's second stage housing. It's the bridge from the domestic violence shelter system into the transitional housing system, and then on your own again out in the community. Oh, buddy. Justin. So she said, well, you can't live at a P.O. box. And I'm just like, oh my God, okay. Well, we can't use the address where we live or we could get evicted. It's such a strange system. But you know what? Like, other women that are in my situation, like, how do they figure it out? They have to lie about where they're staying because they won't take a P.O. box address. We're not allowed to give anyone the address, not the government, no one. So, but I'm getting kicked out of here anyway. So it's, I've been here for 2 months and I thought I was going to be here for a year. But because my husband decided to shoot drugs in his arm on Saturday, a block away from the area that I reside in. Yeah. So now I have to move. And I'm upset about it because I've really struggled um, with homelessness and finding a place again and getting established and after losing everything. And this is not a time that I can be uprooted, but I've been asked to leave. So um, I don't know. They said that I should go back into first stage shelter, and I said I'm not doing that. I cannot go back to not being housed again. I cannot go back to being homeless because he decided to relapse in the area. Like, this is just absolutely insane, you know? Like, my root chakra can't handle any more fucking turmoil and commotion. I was just like starting to get settled here and make a home for myself again. Like, yeah, it's a really shitty area of town. Like, don't get me wrong, but yeah, it's just it's really unfortunate. You know, he's not even in this area at the moment. He just came down here to use or to pick up or yeah. Um, he's actually on the other side of town now in the suburbs at an Airbnb. So why I have to move out of my apartment? I'm like, can we not just safety plan and I'll figure it out, and then like, you know, give me like a couple months, maybe I'll move at Christmas. They're like, no, you should like go today. Okay, so I have two young babies in my full time care. I have my 8-year old that I have visitations with, and if I where am I gonna go that I can have my children with me and not have any of my access or parental rights interrupted? It- like, having your sense of security threatened is the worst, the worst. You know, it's why when I was when I used to work with the homeless population, and I used to have a desire and a passion for helping them because I really understood, you know, what a lot of people don't, you know, and that's that people are homeless for all kinds of different circumstances. And, you know, the way they're treated so often, like they're, you know, they're not given a fair shake a lot of times. And, yeah, it's not easy. Um, so I had a 1 year lease here, but I guess after 2 months now I gotta go because my ex decided to relapse in the area. So so that sucks. And I don't make $5,000 a week like he does. I'm not currently working. I don't have daycare. I'm home with 2 kids. Yeah. Hi. Hi, buddy. And we were isolated for a couple weeks there. 2 year old's better, but little Mr. Man still has some congestion. Poor baby. It's his first cold. But he's strong, he's tough. He's he's like a little football player. Oh, oh god. Yeah, so that sucks. I don't want to move again. I'm really pissed off. Um Tonight they had their bi-weekly women's meeting group, whatever. They gave away a bunch of different prizes and stuff, and like I'm like I didn't even go because I'm just like I don't know. I'm pissed off. I don't know what to say. Um, yeah, I'm pretty upset about it. So, and everyone's treating me differently here too. All the women, they're very cliquey, and yeah, they are. And half of them know him, I'm sure. Half of them probably blew him for drugs. Who knows? Um, yeah. So I'm moving again, and I don't know where. And that's going to screw up my root chakra so much. I'm trying to stay in balance. I'm really, really trying. Doing my best. Okay. So this woman at Service Ontario, she's like, if you don't lower your voice, I'm going to have to remove you. And at this point, I'm still down on my knees talking to my 2 year olds with my son beside me in the stroller, trying to calm her down. And she says this to me: "If you don't lower your voice, I'm gonna have to remove you." I'm like, "Wow, okay." I wasn't swearing. I wasn't freaking out. I wanted their assistance, and they weren't even giving me directives of what to do, and they were giving me a hard time. So I turned to her and I said, "No, you will not remove me." I said, "You will not come near me. You will not touch me. You will not put your hands on me. You will respect my space and my personal boundaries." This lady reminded me of an old nun. She had like this saint necklace on. She was, yeah, she was something else. I couldn't believe she said that. But I'm glad of how I handled at least that part. I'm just like, no, you will not touch me. You will not come near me. You will respect my space. I don't think she was prepared for that one. But. So yeah, obviously I walked out of there without having accomplished anything. Oh my Becky. Someday we'll get ID, hopefully. You know, we are Ontario residents, so someday we get a chance to have health care. Figure it out. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I don't know why this system has to make everything so damn difficult. What's up, buddy? What's up? You gonna read with me? Wanna read a story with Mama? Okay. You read with me last time. Where are we, buddy? Where are we? Oh my goodness. You're getting so heavy. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'll lay you beside me. Chunky little boy, you're getting so heavy. Okay. The emphasis of that passage is traditionally on the fact that Mary had to be healed of those 7 demons. Mary had to be healed of those 7 demons, but I like to focus on the fact that Mary was the first to be listed among the women who had been healed and that walked with Christ. Zachary. These are the same 7 powers or demons that Pope Gregory in the 6th century proclaimed during his homily 33 proved her sinfulness. For me, rather than proving how far she fell, I see the 7 demons as proof of how much she overcame. It feels important, potent maybe, to make a small yet conscious effort towards reparation, to repair our idea of Mary Magdalene. I'm going to move through the 7 powers to teach you about in her gospel and give my version of a homily or a sermon. And by sermon, I don't mean a formal or official one, they're more like love letters. And even though these 7 powers will progress from the first to the 7th in a linear way in this book, they are meant to be understood as powers that have circled back into our lives again and again for some of us, several times a day. And each sermon love letter, in a way, will be a chance for me to practice a Christianity that never excluded Mary's gospel and that understood these 7 powers not as demonic or sinful, but simply as human. For the passages of Mary's gospel, I've referred to Dr. Karen L. King's translation from her seminal book, The Gospel of Mary of Magdala, Jesus, and the First Woman Gospel, First Woman Apostle. For the list of the 7 powers translated with the Greek in Mary's Gospel, I've preferred Cynthia Bourget's transition from her book, The Meaning of Mary Magdalene. For the Gospel of Thomas, I have used Elaine Pagel's translation from Beyond Belief, The Secret Gospel of Thomas, and I have used Orthodox theologian Jean-Yves Leloup's translation of the Gospel of Philip from his book Jesus, Mary Magdalene, and the Gnosis of Sacred Union. Any passages from the New Testament that I quote or refer to are from Dr. Hal Tosig's A New Testament, a Bible for the 21st century, combining traditional and newly discovered texts. I come across the quote that opens this chapter from the Thunder, Perfect Mind, in my early 20s before I found Mary's Gospel, but in many ways, it led me to it. I read, I am the whore and the holy woman, and my whole body applauded. I had to brace myself against the bookshelf from the shock and extreme relief I felt in the corner of the bookstore where I couldn't stop inhaling it. I had no idea what God was or wasn't. I had no clue that I would soon be devoting my life to feminist theology. But everything in me knew that this is what I had been missing. This voice was raw and contradictory and powerful and paradoxical and made so much sense to me. I wanted to scream sincerely for the first time in my life, hallelujah. I didn't understand why, but finding this voice made these crazy rivulets of joy, these electric currents of energy race through me. My eyes read and reread, I am she, the Lord. We can't half-ass death. Mary chapter 2, verse 2. Every nature, every modeled form, every creature exists in and with each other. I was up in the middle of the night several years ago, scrolling through the internet like it had secrets to reveal to me. I clicked through to an article about a seed bank that's buried deep in the mountain in Norway. Supposedly, there are over 800,000 varieties of seeds from plants to trees to fruits and vegetables. It's the world's reserve in case of mass destruction. Almost every country in the world has made a deposit, but only one has made a withdrawal, and that only recently, Syria. The war has so devastated the land that they needed to ask the world's reserve for some seeds to start again. It fascinated and horrified me at the same time that a seed bank in case of world destruction would be needed, that we need to have a backup plan to safeguard ourselves against what we've forgotten, how dependent we are on each other and the planet. But I also imagine walking through row after row of all those seeds, the magnitude of all that potential. That mountain vault might as well be holding bars of gold. Seeds are the precursor to currency. They are the original coin, and it felt inescapably hopeful that I stumbled upon this scary and interesting fact. I resonated with needing to start over or wanting to begin again. Actually, I didn't want to start over. Who does? I just knew that I was at an end. Every nature, every modeled form, every creature exists in and with each other. This is how the Gospel of Mary opens after the initial missing pages, and I'm not sure if there was ever a more eloquent way to describe love. It's not a love we've seen in practice very often, sometimes in moments of crisis, but it's a love that renders us all equal. It's a love that says, I am not separate from you. We exist in and with each other. It's a love that reaches everything and everyone. If we all exist in and with each other, then we are all inextricably connected. There is no stranger, no immigrant, no alien, no other. I was realizing as I was wide awake yet again at 3 a.m. that being fiercely independent only gets us so far. And it's actually a good sign when an old way we're operating in the world comes to an end, but it doesn't feel good at all. It feels like an anxiety attack, or drinking too much, or insomnia, or watching TV like we'll get paid for it, or a little bit of all of the above, which was how I was handling it. Sometimes it has to get worse before it gets better. I like this adage. I cling to it. It's true to the same degree that you can't half-ass death. You have to die all the way to be dead. And this is what scares us about it. It's finality. But in life, this is just the way it is. You have to die all the way before you can resurrect. So for me, when things got worse, when I was moving every other year, try every other month, um, to afford rent until I found myself isolated out in the woods, which felt like the wilderness after city living in tiny apartments for most of my life. The fourth move with my little man, my 7-year-old son, and I was awake night after night because being alone in a house unsettled an old trauma from dormant to a palpable terror. I dreaded going to sleep. And as much as I tried, I couldn't reason with my nervous system. I would hear a noise while asleep, and I'd shoot up in bed like a meerkat. Unable to relax for the rest of the night. I was exhausted. I was exhausted not just from a lack of sleep, it was from all the energy it took to remain blind to what I could almost see that night, but not quite. It was standing right behind me like Jason in his hockey mask from Friday the 13th. I needed to go home to Cleveland. Cue horror music. I could afford to stay still then. And I would have family to help me. But then I would also have to come face to face with why I'd left home in the first place. So now I'll tell you what I heard later that night. After reading about the World Seed Bank, just don't judge me, or try not to. Actually, I can't ask you that because I judged it when I heard it. I felt one of those sinking sensations as if my whole body responded with fuck in slow mo. I was lying there in bed, frozen again like a wide eyed meerkat because I had just heard a loud, very suspicious noise from the basement. And maybe you've had a night like this too, or some version of it, when seemingly beyond your control, your mind starts making a moral inventory of all your shortcomings. Yeah. Of all those times when you now realize you should have said yes, but said no in the opposite. All those no's, as if there was a way to not end up here, as if there could have been a choice that would have led you to that expectation you had for your life.